unnecessary intro song to totally waste your time.
Old Mark Zuckerberg. What on earth has happened to Mark Zuckerberg? Is he full of shit? Has he got his tail between his legs and now he's worried about his social platform, so he's changing to accommodate Trump? Or did he get some testosterone and hang out with the UFC so much that he turned into half a man? And now he's exhibiting signs of manliness. Could that be it? You know, I got a number of messages over the past couple of days about, fuck him, are we just going to forgive him now? Now we're all buddies with Mark. I mean, we? Who's we? I'm not buddies with Mark Zuckerberg. I don't know who is. You know, I see a lot of people that are saying, I want him in prison. He stole elections. He killed countless people with, blah, 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 XYZ, COVID this, COVID that. And, I can relate with the rage, but there's a bigger thing here, and that is that I'm seeing this thing on the right that is something on the left that I've seen on the left for a long time, which I didn't like about the left, which is there's this sort of addiction to victim mentality. It's like I've noticed that many people on the right wing seem to get upset over small victories, or they seem to go into denial about them. But it seems to me more like they just don't want to be happy, or they're afraid to celebrate at all. And I get it, you don't want to be the guy raising his arms at the last 100 feet of the marathon only to have somebody sneaking behind him. You don't want to be the guy 10 yards out from the end zone celebrating only to get creamed. I get that. But if you don't ever take any moment to enjoy victories, even small ones, then what's the point? Like, what's the point of even fighting if you can't enjoy anything? If you're just going to hunker down and be bitter and angry and resentful. Resentment is what the left does. And I'm trying to think of when resentment is helpful. It might be helpful if you're wanting to kill somebody, Is that what people are proposing for Zuckerberg? I was asking a friend the other day, I go, what do you want to happen to Zuckerberg? You want him jailed for what exactly? Doing what the government told him to do? The government was telling him to censor, so he did. Or maybe he did it on his own. I don't know. He's saying it was the government. He used to be a real pussy. You know that. So it's kind of not impossible to believe that he just did whatever he was told to do. The evidence is now that you could say now he's doing what he's told to do by the new government. So maybe he just hasn't changed and he's just being the same old Mark Zuckerberg, which is doing as he's told, Well, he spent $400 million to steal an election. Okay, do you want that to stop? Do you want billionaires to be able to be prevented from spending their money the way they want to? Because, that would apply to Musk, too. And Sachs and everybody. And maybe you. And what dollar amount? Who decides what dollar amount is okay to spend? The government? Okay. Leftists would love you to give more power to the government to regulate who can spend money on what. They would love to limit Musk and then sneakily take money from Soros and Gates and everybody else. You know, what are you asking? What are you asking for? I asked this guy and he said, well, to have these guys treated as publishers. And I said, okay. Basically the end of social media, which would be fine. I think that's a pretty good argument. If somebody says, I just want the end of social media entirely, I'd be okay. But then you're not posting to anybody. You know, you can have your little website or whatever, but the chances of getting your voice out, I don't know. I'm for the end of social media. The problem with Facebook is they replaced the old system where you just had your own blog that you were hosting. You know, then people would link to it and things would go organically. But now you got these algorithms. We don't know what's going on. We have no idea what's going on. You know, under the hood. We don't know if we're being shadow banned. We don't know how many people are actually seeing or engaging with our stuff. Back in the day, on my old blog in the early 2000s, I could see my view count and I could see my page views, unique visitors, all my stats I could look at. I can't look at anything like that on Facebook. I can, I guess, to a certain degree on Twitter, on X. But when you give somebody else the power to control who gets to see when and what, that's a problem. So in Mark Zuckerberg's whole apology letter or his little thing, I didn't see him addressing that at all. I don't see Musk addressing that either. You know, we already have a social credit system. It's called your credit score. FICO. What's the other one? TransUnion, Equifax. You have a credit score out there that's related with your finances. And since that's an important thing, you can check your credit score at any time. You get a couple free ones a year, I think, maybe one, a free credit report. And by the way, I'm not so sure that it should be legal to have these things, but that's a different topic. But you can always check them. So if something's happening, you can go, oh, well, here's what I need to do. This is what I need to fix this, and this, and blah, blah, blah. But we don't have that on Facebook. You know, there's under the engine of Facebook, there's a credit scoring system. You're scored. But we don't have access to it. Interestingly, we have more access to it on Facebook, though, because you can click the little thing and go, your profile has some issues. These things you did are bad. We don't agree with these things. We don't like you. Yellow, red, or green, you know. But it doesn't really show you, you know, how to fix it or whatever. And there's nothing like that on X. Musk originally promised to have some real transparency. And I guess if you're a coder, maybe you can look at certain aspects of the algorithm, things that I wouldn't understand. But, you know, putting it in just a simple report. Here's what's happening to your profile. Here's why. Here's the distribution. More of your followers hate you than like you. So we give less of your content to them because they hate you. And that's probably what's happening with my X. When I don't get a lot of interaction on X, I'm not totally surprised by that, because most of the people that followed me on Twitter initially were people that were following me for naked pictures. You know, my art, naked people, groceries, and pets. You know? So when I started chirping on about quasi-libertarian politics, they hate it. So if I'm a robot looking at my profile on Twitter, I'm going, yeah, this guy's own followers, people that chose to follow him, hate him. And so it makes sense that I wouldn't be seen that much, But this is me just imagining. I don't know. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to check? But anyway, back to the point that I'm trying to make. And that is seizing upon energy and momentum. I really see that a lot of these people who maybe used to support Trump, or now they're all, he's owned by Jews. I'm like, really? Donald Trump's owned by Jews? A New York real estate guy who has dealt with Jews his whole life, the stereotypical thing. He doesn't know how to deal with them. He doesn't know what he's up against. I don't know if you saw on his Truth Social where he basically reposted a post that blames the entire Iraq war on Netanyahu. That doesn't seem like he's sucking up to Israel to me. But yeah, you got to seize on victory. Like I see a lot of people on Twitter and Facebook that are just like, anything Musk does or anything that Trump does now or anything that Zuckerberg does, it's like, no forgiveness, nothing. Blah. I'm like, okay, I kind of get it. But let's be realistic here. Zuckerberg is not going to be hanged. As much as you would like to see him dragged through the streets and hanged, that's not going to happen. And he's probably not going to be thrown in jail for censoring somebody when the government asked him to, or because he wanted to. What I suggest is maybe people, I don't know, try to file a lawsuit for false advertising, because at each stage, you say Facebook is this, Facebook is that, and then you sign up and you have an agreement. But if that agreement changes, then it's just like, okay, well, that's false advertising. You told me to come here to build my own audience and engage directly with my people, my tribe. But then you changed it later and you tried to make me pay to engage with my tribe. So I built my tribe and now you're charging me. See, that seems actionable. I know a lot of my lawyer friends out there will be going, no, that's never going to happen because terms of service and blah, blah, blah. And of course, I have my own ideas about how to fix that. Basically, ban fine print, make everybody read the terms out loud in order to agree to them. Then they actually agreed to them and they didn't just click here to agree to 500 pages of fine print. Anyway, I keep getting off track. You got to take small victories, and not only that, but you got to remember, and I think this is where right-wingers kind of have a hard time. You got to remember that these people are actually human beings. I know, much easier to think of them as demons, and that's a lot more fun to think of them as lizard people, aliens from another dimension, not human. But they are human. Elon Musk is a human. Mark Zuckerberg is a human. He responds to tough guys being around him. If you don't think hanging out with UFC fighters and being trained over the last couple of years changes a person, if you don't think testosterone changes a person, talk to somebody who starts taking testosterone injections. Like, this is one of the interesting things about being in San Francisco is that, once upon a time when I had friends, many of them were trans, gay, all the different colors that are so popular now. And I was part of early conversations about this stuff. I remember walking down the street with one of my friends who considers herself to be trans. I still consider herself to be a her, you know. And I've told her that. I said, look, you project female to me always, you know. That's just the way it is. I'm not going to change my language. Anyway, I don't have friends anymore, including I'm not friends with her. I mean, I am on paper, but I don't hang out with anybody. But anyway, I remember one time at her house, a bunch of lesbians were hanging out, and a lot of transitioning people. And I remember interviewing this one butch lesbian. You know, I call them stepdad dykes. I was, you know, there are certain lesbians where you just go, yeah, there's no way. If you saw them holding hands with a man, it would be weird. You know what I mean? And this is another thing. Right-wingers never seem to want to agree that there are certain gay people that were born that way. Like, do you want to see Liberace kissing somebody? A woman? Do you want to see Richard Simmons? Try to imagine Richard Simmons being romantic with a woman. Nah. Gives you the heebie-jeebies, right? Why? Because Richard Simmons was born gay. For whatever reason. I don't know why. Don't ask me. Okay? But so I'm talking to one of these stepdad dykes, and she's transitioning, right? And to the point where she's just taking testosterone. And I said, well, what's that like? So you've been a non-testosterone person and a testosterone person. She goes, I can't believe it. She says, I would have never been able to guess that I would become so aggressive, you know, and I'd have such competitive thoughts. You know, she just went down the list of all these things that are stereotypically, toxically masculine, you know, and I could see that, you know, and I used to see that in my days going to lesbian bars. You know, I'd go with my lesbian friends to the Lexington, you know, and I would always joke. I'd be like, the thing that's funny about lesbians is they act like, a lot of them, not all, a lot of them act like cartoon representations of men. It's like the dykes in this bar are behaving more like stereotypical men than men do. You know, like getting shoulder checked and walking through, bumping people, just being tough, you know, cartoonishly. I always found it amusing. I was like, God, the toxically masculine energy, air quotes, in this club is higher at a lesbian club than it is like at a sports bar with a bunch of dudes watching football. You know, the combination, a woman with testosterone is fucking weird. It's fucking weird, you know? It's like dealing with thoughts and ideas that you're not physically equipped to deal with. Anyway, I got a lot to say on that. But point being, Mark Zuckerberg looks physically different. Everybody knows this. We all see it. And it correlates with a lot of his thinking. And we want him. I want him sucking up to the right people. You know? And this whole idea when you criticize and go, fuck him. And I know that. I do the same thing, you know. These human beings, Mark Zuckerberg can make a choice. Every day he wakes up and he can make a lot of different choices. He can go, how do I want to view the future? How do I want to view life? Where do I want to go? You know, and it seems to me like he's really flirting around and wanting to be accepted by the bros. You know, the right-wingers, the tough guys, the UFC. He wants to be accepted. Now, those guys can either accept him or reject him. And they can have terms. Either way, he's going to wake up and go, who's around me? Who do I want to be around? Do we want to send him running back to leftists? A bunch of betas? Do we want him hanging out with the Biden crowd? Or do you want to pull him in? Do we want to reward people? Do we want to just be good people? Like, here's the thing. When somebody does something, even if your enemy, somebody you don't like, does something that you like, you say, yeah, there you go. Way to go, guy. That's what we like. We like that. Because the idea is that you should be able to champion and support things and ideas that you hold valuable. When a bad person does something good, this is how you train a dog, for crying out loud. It's how you train children. Positive reinforcement. You know? If you're never acknowledging positivity, this is what I kind of unfollow people and block people and lose interest in people, is when they're so binary, they're so simple that they just classify one person as being lost cause, no way, that person is evil. It's just like, okay, can you tell me anything good about that person? No. Okay, well, my conversation with you is going to be, at best, me just being curious of how you get locked into that mentality, you know. But it's not going to be very fruitful. If you can't see when a person does something good, if you can't look at an enemy, air quotes, and say, but I like it when you do this. Here, I like. If you can't support the good things, then what good are you? It's easy to be a critic. Very easy to be a critic. I know I've talked about this before, but it bears repeating. You, individual human, are part of the big machine. You know, you're part of the thing. You're going to have influence whether you like it or not, in a very small way. If you support things that you like and you encourage people to do good, when they do good, that matters. You know, again, like I see Elon Musk all the time, I don't understand how he's not banning everybody. I personally don't have thick enough skin that if everybody on my platform that I bought and paid for with my money, you know, if people were constantly talking shit about me on that, I'd be like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Go away, go away, go away. Goodbye, 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 goodbye. You don't have manners. Fuck off. The fact that anybody's on there that criticizes him means that he's got something I don't have. Because I don't have that. I don't have it. I'm not a patient man. You know? If you antagonize me and try to make me feel bad about myself and try to hurt my feelings, well, guess what? My feelings will probably get hurt, and I will probably distance myself from you by blocking or banning you. That's just the truth, you know. And if you don't believe me, look at my block list. My block list is longer than a block. It's 10 blocks long. But yeah, we got to celebrate and we got to support people when they're moving in our direction, you know, and you're part of it. You know, we can very easily send these little human beings back. And it's not just, it's easy to seize on Musk and Zuckerberg, but we're talking about all the people that surround them too, you know, their support system. Everybody sees that. There is this thing, you know, you notice it. It's that pendulum swinging. People go, oh, you know, I used to think this, but now I think that. And I don't buy these people that are acting like they were always the same. Oh, I've always been this way. It's a funny little mechanism in language where we say, well, I've always said. Really? Did you always say that, or did you just start saying that when you saw it on a meme 6 months ago? You know? Well, I've always thought. Always? When you were 5, you thought this certain thing? a certain political thing. You thought about it when you were 4, about you always thought it, or you recently thought it. You got to let people have their epiphanies. I have epiphanies all the time. I have epiphanies about former epiphanies. You know, that epiphany I had is going to be replaced with this epiphany. And that happens. That happens. I hope that happens with you. That's what I hope. You know, I do suspect that I might be wrong about that, because for many years I've been sort of befuddled by the idea that a lot of people kind of set their tribe. They find their tribe when they're young. They find their hairdo. They find their fashion. They find their tribe. They find their music. Somewhere between the ages of 14 and 22. And then for the rest of their lives, they are rocking those same opinions and attitudes. They have that same hairdo. They're rocking that same bowling shirt, you know. Their same style. And they go on through their life defending that tribe, that set of parameters that they set up when they were just young. And I've always found that to be very curious. I don't understand how a person could, or why a person would want to be the same way that they were when they were young. You know, it's funny, I watched that movie, The Substance, last night. Demi Moore got a Golden Globe for it, and it was really just embarrassing watching her speech and how much it meant to her. It was just cringy. But even cringier is the movie. You know, it totally rips off all this Stanley Kubrick stuff, like blatantly, intentionally, as an homage, you know, pulling things directly from The Shining and 2001. They used his music and everything. You know, they were obviously doing it as part of saying, I want to be part of this club, you know. But the movie doesn't really have a very clear message. You know, it's about a woman who loses her looks and grows older. And then she loses her job because of that. They hire a young, sexy version, but this magical thing happens where she can clone herself and be a younger version of herself, you know? But then she gets addicted to that, being young and hot, and ends up turning into a monster. On the outside, you'd say, well, okay, vanity will turn you into a monster. That seems like a good boiled down thing. But what it never does, that I struggled with when I was watching it, and this is on topic, I promise, is it didn't embrace or even acknowledge the wonderful things about getting older. Yes, there are trade-offs. Yes, your skin starts to droop. Yes, you lose strength, you know. But wow, the way you're shifting can change, and your priorities can change, and the way you deal with the world can change. Personally, I like a lot of the changes that have happened in my life. I don't understand my friends that are taking boner pills and testosterone pills and clinging to youth, because I don't know, I just don't have a nostalgic mind. I don't look back at the past and think, oh, the past was better. I don't. I get kind of, I don't know, weird feelings in my stomach when I think about the past. I tend to remember the bad things in the past rather than the good things. I'm not one of those good old days kind of guys. I can have those moments, but that's not my tendency. My tendency is to, you know, focus on the bad things in the past. But anyway, people change. When we ask people to change and we want people to change and they start changing, we have to let them. You know, so many are saying, oh, how dare they let Cenk Uygur speak at TPUSA? That's proof that they're full of shit. It's like, no, it's actually because right-wingers, a lot of them, are Christians and conservatives, and they were raised to believe that we forgive people and we welcome them. In fact, we go after them and try to convert them. At least that was the way I was raised. I went on a Mormon mission, you know, tried to convert people. I shook hands with a guy that probably killed somebody and chopped him up and threw him in a river hours earlier. I found this out. That's a different story. But yeah, when you're in that mode of spreading the good word, as they say, forgiveness, change, redemption, that's a different word than going around and just being the punisher. That's kind of what the left does. You were wrong, therefore you are cast out forever. There is no redemption. You are canceled. You know, and the right wing was like, we don't like this cancellation thing. Except for now, everybody's canceled. That's the thing. It's just like, okay, so Zuck's canceled. You know, you need to feel the pain that we felt. Okay, I get it. But can you even do that? And do you even want that world? Aren't we complaining about that world? You know? Somebody made a proposal yesterday on X and said, okay, Zuck, you'll be forgiven when you restore what you took from people. You know, when you restore everybody's accounts, retroactively pay them what, you know, prorate what they were being paid for their accounts when you took it away from them and restore them. That's fair. I think that's fair. That's fair. I like that. You know, Zuckerberg, are you really sorry? Are you really changing? Because that would prove it. What amazing. How amazing would that be if he actually did that? He went to Candace Owens and he goes, okay, Candace, you were making this many millions per month or this many hundreds of thousands or whatever. This is the amount that you were making a month when I yanked your profile. I can assume I'll pay you. Here we go. I'm writing you a check for that. That would be amazing. He's not going to do it. But it's fair for the question to be put in front of him. And it's fair to say, you don't get redemption without compensation. Is it recompense? Is that the word? You know, that's fair. But you know, you can say that in a friendly way. Welcome to the team, but here are the conditions. We want you on our team, but this is how our team works. You know, that's fair. You know, and you can be friendly when you do it. Reasonable. How about that? How about just not super emotional? Not just super ragey and screamy, like how I got with the parking guy the other day. You know, I'm making these recordings in my room and I'm all calm and shit, but I lose my temper and I sound like a fucking chimpanzee. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. Thanks for listening.